The SNES game Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars was proof that Mario could do RPG stuff, besides platforming and even kart racing and sports. It was a collaboration between Nintendo and Square, but it was sadly one of the last, as Square primarily focused on the PlayStation, least of all for continuing the Final Fantasy series. So, Super Mario RPG 2 on the Nintendo 64 was inevitable, and it was handled by Nintendo in-house, and developed by Intelligent Systems, who are best known for the Fire Emblem series and other collaborations with Nintendo. Surprisingly, this new Mario RPG was revealed to feature a more 2D style and had a more fitting title of Paper Mario, plus it was known as Mario Story in Japan. Let's look back at one of the few RPGs the Nintendo 64 actually had, and see if it's paper thin or not. When the game is booted up, we see an intro told almost in the form of a storybook vaguely reminiscent of Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. It shows Bowser and his assistant Kammy Koopa going to Star Haven to imprison the Star Spirits and steal the Star Rod to gain the power of invincibility. This newfound power makes kidnapping Peach and lifting her castle into the sky and getting rid of Mario a piece of cake. Mario, who only wanted some quiet time at Peach's party, barely survives the fight against Bowser and explores the Mushroom Kingdom to free the imprisoned Star Spirits in the hopes of defeating Bowser. The story is divided into chapters like a novel, and Peach is playable in between chapters, as she tries to aid Mario in his quest from her castle without Bowser knowing. The story succeeds more so due to its humour and cast of characters. While the story is essentially a Mario rescues Peach from Bowser story, the humour plays on that, plus there are a great many other lines and visual gags that can raise at least a chuckle. Many of the characters Mario encounters throughout the story are great and have their own personality and backstory, plus the settings they live in make the world feel alive. However, the story can easily be considered either childish or simple, as well as a copycat of Super Mario RPG. What it doesn't copy from Super Mario RPG, however, is its presentation. The graphic style is distinctive. Instead of the more 3D graphics of the SNES game, the game looks more like a fairy tale storybook, with the characters being 2D moving around mostly 3D backgrounds, where themes such as houses and trees pop up. The paper of the title applies to characters folding as they turn around or when Mario goes to sleep. It is an art style that is either hard to define or transcends time, despite the generally blurry nature due to the Nintendo 64 hardware. The icing on this presentation cake is solid sound effects and music. There is no voice acting and the sounds are not intrusive. The music is different to that which is featured in Super Mario RPG, due to the change in composers. Koji Kondo actually contributed to the rearrangement of themes from previous Super Mario games, which is very nice to hear. The original melodies are extensive, catchy, lovely, and sometimes atmospheric or quirky. Some of the music does sound generic, feel like filler, or is repetitive, with the battle music potentially getting old after a while. Anyone who's played Mario games, and to an extent Super Mario RPG, will find exploration very easy to get to grips with. Mario moves and jumps around just like you would expect. The camera angle is more reminiscent of the 2D side-scroller Mario games, so there's far less chance of falling off or mistiming jumps like in Super Mario RPG. The exploration generally occurs in the different areas that make up each story chapter, such as the desert or island, which are reachable via Toad Town, the main hub of the game. The variety is generally good, not just in terms of setting, but gameplay progression. One moment you're saving Koopas at their village from some pesky enemies, the next you're helping out sentient flowers who are concerned about beauty, food, and water. It's generally easy to figure out what to do and where to go next. If not, you can get advice or hints from fortune tellers, something you actually have to do at least once in order to progress through the adventure. There are many puzzles throughout, which are not too hard to figure out, given the partners that join Mario. The Goomba, Goombario, is the first partner you get, and before long, you'll be able to blow up weak walls or swim. Plus they are all generally likeable with good backstory. The partners are also instrumental to the battle system mechanics. Just like in Super Mario RPG, you can avoid much of your encounters with enemies. However, you can change how battles start by doing a first strike with your jump, hammer, or a partner's ability. Just be careful of enemies doing the first strike on you. Also, like in Super Mario RPG, the damage you deal or take is also dependent on well-timed button presses, or action commands. Action commands also keep you active and engaged in battles, though you may mutter to yourself,
I'm positive I pressed the button at the right time.
Mario and his partners can also execute special moves, which consumes a particular number of shared flower points, or FP. And when you level up, you can choose to upgrade either health points, flower points, or even badge points. And that is mostly where the similarities to Super Mario RPG's battle system end. The main difference being is that Mario is only joined by whichever partner you have at the time, rather than two other party members of your choice. Each partner has specific special abilities, so choosing which one to use in battle and at which time is crucial. They don't have a health bar as such, so any attacks dealt to them merely temporarily paralyzes them. Leveling up is even somewhat different. You level up only when you reach 100 star points, but a gradually increasing amount of experience points like in most RPGs. And the number of star points you obtain does obviously depend on the power of an enemy, whether it be a boss fight or the generally tougher enemies later on in the game. Whether you choose HP, FP, or BP when you level up is a matter of personal preference as well as strategy. One of the most important things to take into account is that even if you time your action commands well, you will still generally take damage, albeit reduced. And the number of items you can carry, such as mushrooms that get your health back, are limited and not stackable. So do you increase health points or something else? How much do you avoid enemies while exploring? How long may you be able to survive until you come to a shop, inn, or health block so that you can breathe a sigh of relief? Can you manage your star energy well enough so you can use the powers from the increasing number of star spirits you free from imprisonment? What can make or break a battle is the new system of badges that consume the aforementioned badge points. There are badges that give you new abilities, increase your attack or defense, and more. There are a lot of them. Choosing which ones to equip without exceeding your current BP limit is a lot of fun. Strategy and challenge are very much part of the package. You'll have to make sure not to jump on an enemy with spikes, though there is a badge that can change that. You may also have to use a Quake Hammer just so enemies can be damaged. A Quake Hammer badge is easy to find, so you don't have to worry about that. Badges can potentially make you overpowered, but regardless of that or which of the upgrades you choose when you get 100 star points, the level of challenge of this game is fairly low. While tougher enemies and bosses do require some strategy, you may find yourself wanting something less easy. Though if you really want, you could choose only one or two upgrades, as well as specific partners or badges or item usage to decide how hard you want the game to be. Just keep in mind you can't max out an upgrade indefinitely. Badges and items aren't the only things you collect, which means there are several hours of side content in this game. You can deliver letters, you can make recipes to actually help you out in battle, though it is necessary to progressing through the game. You can solve other characters' problems, there are optional bosses, and there are a lot of star pieces to look for which are quite useful, though many of them have to be obtained from answering quiz questions about the game, similar to the Banjo-Kazooie games. All of this comes down to the game structure. The main hub, Toad Town, only gradually opens itself up so as not to overwhelm the player, as well as understanding what the character's personalities or motivations are. You can also upgrade your partners to get more abilities for battle. The chapters are generally engaging and full of variety, and in between each one, you take control of Princess Peach and move around the castle finding out hints for the next chapter, as well as bake a cake and participate in a quiz. These can even be some of the most fun parts of the game, as well as provide a good opportunity to mock the Bowser kidnaps Peach plot that is in way too many Mario games. There's just so much charm. The charm, the aesthetics, the story, the music, the simple yet engaging battle system, the exploration, the characters. While it can be argued that Paper Mario feels more like an adventure game that has RPG elements, the game is a good introduction to RPGs for newcomers, plus veterans can have fun too. This is partially what made Super Mario RPG work, right down to the amount of damage you take or deal with enemies barely exceeding the single and even double digits. The puzzles and exploration aren't necessarily taxing on the brain, but they are engaging. The art style may have been a surprise, and still can be, to those who loved Super Mario RPG, but it doesn't take too long to get used to, and feels more timeless. Plus it was mostly utilised better in subsequent games. The music is also pleasing on the ears. Even the use of partners, amongst other things, is a gameplay mechanic that may surprise people. Is it better or worse than Super Mario RPG? Well, it is different and in a very good way. Plus it's a somewhat longer game, taking close to 20 to 30 hours to finish. It even has less platforming than before, which significantly reduces frustration, but a relative lack of RPG-style customization that comes down more so to mandatory items, such as tougher hammers, or abilities rather than interesting equipment or accessories, can potentially alienate veterans. But in saying this, Paper Mario is a stellar Nintendo 64 game that somehow feels more engaging the more you play it. You may even enjoy it more on a replay. There are so few RPGs on the Nintendo 64, and Paper Mario is one that it needed. If you're up for collecting expensive Nintendo 64 games, or you're looking at the list of the most downloaded games on a virtual console, then don't hesitate in discovering or rediscovering this game, even if you haven't played Super Mario RPG. You may find it not to be as childish or paper thin as it looks. This new